What's up, guys? So a lot of people have been asking me recently, what is the best way to counter the Asgardians in war? Now, that said, the actual best way to counter the Asgardians in war is just to use the X-Men. However, there are not a lot of strong other options. Plenty of people have been using Fantastic Four, and when they're about the same power, the Fantastic Four do pretty well. They're mostly reliable. It depends on who Loki picks with his special. Alternatively, some people have been using AIM, which again, it kind of depends on who Loki picks with his special. A good bit of RNG if someone gets killed, if Scientist Supreme is willing to revive them. But yeah, they do all right. But we've been hard pressed to try to find another team that really deals with the Asgardians well. And we stumbled across the team that you see before you, which at first glance you would not assume is a strong Asgardian counter. But as you're about to see with some of the footage that I have for you, they do really well into the Asgardians. So, having said that, I just want to talk really quickly about what it is about this team that makes them such effective Asgardian counters, and then we'll watch the footage, and then after that, I'll just throw in a couple comments about exactly how you should expect some of the war matches to go. So, having said that, the core of this team that's vital is Ultimus, Korath, and Minerva. Those are the core three. Now, I have Cyborg and Kingpin here because they synergize really well with the team, as I'll explain. However, if you want the absolute safest, definitely going to beat the Asgardians team, you can actually replace one of them with Captain Marvel and you won't have any trouble no matter what. Now, the reason that I don't have Captain Marvel on my team and in the footage I'm going to show you is because I didn't need it. Captain Marvel is an incredibly powerful character, and if you can have her on another team doing something else, that's an advantage for you. And the team that you see right here, I used to punch up into the Asgardians 50k multiple times, and they did it with no trouble. Just walked through them and pretty much finished with everyone at full health. Having said that, the footage that you're about to see is not from Alliance War, because I figured this team out right as our war went into matchmaking and some of these characters were on defense. So I wasn't able to get war footage, but I was able to get, like I said, 50k punch up in arena footage, which I'll explain. And the interesting thing is, we know all of the advantages that the Asgardians get in war defense, and a lot of those advantages actually work in this team's favor and make them stronger. So I'll explain that, but first I'm gonna show you the first bit of footage and I'll break it down, and then I'll show you more footage. So let's check it out. So, Korath is the fastest member of either team, so he gets to go first, and he applies a special to Thor. He also calls an assist for some extra damage, and that taunt gives Ultimus 30% speed bar. Because someone died, which is pretty common to happen on the opening turn, Minerva gets extra speed bar and can revive immediately. Then Ultimus gets to go, and he can ult on turn 1. He gets offense up because the person he's ulting is taunting, so he does a lot of extra damage, and that's really good. In addition, because of all the buffs that the target had, as you can see, Thor died pretty much immediately. And with Thor out of the fight, it's not going to be tough for them to close it out. And then you got Kingpin to go, he gives the offense up, so Korath is able to deliver a really big attack right there. Then Ultimus uses his splash damage attack, which removes all of the evades from those Loki summons, and it copied a bunch of really helpful positive effects, including all the regen. And then you have Minerva, who's now put a bleed on every single summon on the field, and Minerva is going to keep healing your team based on the deaths of all the summons. So it was unfortunate that all of that healing tried to go to the only person on the team who was still heal blocked, but I think you get the point. The Hela heal blocks wear off after a single turn, and then every single person on the field is going to be getting tons and tons of healing from all of the Gregs and all of the Loki summons, and they're just going to pick them apart. Not to mention that Kingpin has his bodyguard summons, and every time they die, you're just giving Minerva more turns. And so you'll see here, for example, I literally go after Greg, the undead Asgardian, because even though it heals them, it's just contributing more healing to this team. And I think that it's very close, but they end up out-sustaining them, because Hela and Thor are the only two members that really do a considerable amount of damage, and Thor is dead, which means you're mainly just contending with Hela, whereas a lot of the people on this team do quite a bit of damage. Korath and Kree Cyborg in particular. So, as you can see, this was a 50k punch up, and they weren't even close to being in trouble. So I'll just let this footage finish, and then I'll talk a little bit about why it would be a little bit different in Alliance War, but not really worse. Alright, so because this wasn't Alliance War footage, I do just quickly want to break down what would be different if this had happened in Alliance War. It's not too much. The first is Hela's going to give an extra 25% damage to the Asgardians, and she's going to summon an undead Asgardian on any Asgardian's death. So the extra 25% damage, certainly not fun, definitely more help to them than you. However, as you saw, the team was never really in any serious danger, so it ends up not doing too much, especially when you're taking out Thor up front, and Thor is the main damage engine of the team, so with Thor down, the only one really doing a threatening amount of damage is Hela, so it's not too bad. In addition, all of the undead Asgardians that are going to be summoned until you kill Hela actually help your team and help to mitigate that extra damage that they have. And this is because Minerva's passive is going to go off anytime you kill an enemy. So not only do you have all the Loki summons, you'll have multiple undead Asgardians, and so yes, killing them will heal the Asgardians, however, it will also heal your team. And because you have that Korath ult, which can heal block, you can choose to go after an individual member of the Asgardian team and prevent them from getting healing. But aside from letting a Greg basic attack someone, which you don't ever have to allow, you're not going to be heal blocked, and not only that, the Greg would have to attack the person with the lowest health that you would be trying to heal. So in most instances, all the extra Gregs end up healing you quite a bit, and ultimately when you decide to focus on someone, you can still just take them out. In addition, Heimdall's going to give everyone 2-turn defense up on spawn, and again, that's definitely more help to them than you. However, it ends up not being a game breaker because it's going to give Ultimus an extra hit on his ult and it'll get flipped to defense down. So you should still have no trouble taking out Thor right up front. The only thing to worry about is if the Thor has really, really high red stars, that could make the difference. So if you're talking about like a 6 or a 7 red star Thor, then you might want to be a little bit careful, or definitely bring in Captain Marvel to make sure that you can burst them down. And then the last thing is they could be boosted, but again, the boost actually works in your favor because after the Korath special and the assist, Thor will still have 1 stack of deflect, which means Ultimus is going to hit him another time with his offense up ultimate, and that deflect will get flipped into a bleed. So if the team is boosted, it just means you're going to hit Thor even harder. And again, once you've taken Thor out, it's not so tough, and you can always just take out the various Gregs and heal anyone on your team who's low back up. One more thing that's going to be a little different in Alliance War is the Loki special will be applying Taunt to whichever target he picks, and this ends up not making a big difference because, firstly, depending on who they pick, a lot of these characters take hits really well, right? Kingpin is very tanky, Ultimus is going to have a really high block chance and high health, Minerva is going to have very high health, so it's not too much trouble depending on who they pick, and if they do pick someone that they kill, Minerva will gain speed bar from that and immediately take her turn and just revive them, and now they're back and they have death proof. So that ends up making pretty much no difference. Oh, and lastly, I wanted to answer this. I have no T4s on this team. Not a single one. Now, if I were going to put T4s on this team, it's definitely not a bad idea to put T4s in Ultimus's ultimate. That is definitely going to give you a huge damage boost. So if you're finding that your Ultimus isn't quite taking out the Thors right away, combined with all the bleeds when Thor takes his turn, and the fact that you can Minerva ult and hit him for another 15%, then definitely just spare the T4s for Ultimus's ult, and you'll do a lot more damage. So that's the major difference for War. So my guess is that a 50k punch up in War in a lot of instances is going to kind of be pushing it as far as what you're going to get away with. But again, considering that these are characters that don't urgently have to be on other teams, I still think this is a really, really effective team for fighting the Asgardians, and at roughly even power or very small punch ups, they should have very little trouble. So, having said that, now that you kind of understand everything that's going on, I'm just going to let this second match play. It happened to be on the same stage, but it's a completely different fight, and again, you'll see just how little trouble they have with walking through this team. So check it out.